Hi everyone. This week on the show, I've got Bryan from Gazeal. We're going to be talking about reservation agreements, the clarity they bring. But before we do anything useful, I want a quick introduction from you, Bryan, please.
Yep, sure. Hello, I'm Bryan, like you just said. Hairy and ugly, and I've been around too long. But I have to have a job title, which is CEO, but it should really be the Chief Uncomplicating Officer, because I tend to
Yep.
get around uncomplicating processes that are too long.
Awesome. And Bryan works in Gazeal in terms of the reservation agreements. And for anybody that doesn't know what that is, Bryan, can you tell us it in its simplest form, please?
In its simplest form, yeah. I mean, a reservation agreement is basically a written commitment
Mhm.
between the seller and the buyer when the offer is accepted that says we'll behave appropriately up until exchange, when it's obviously legally bound. We won't muck around. We won't do the dirty on each other. We won't be unreasonable.
Yep.
If we are unreasonable and we blow the sale out, then we are agreeing to pay the other party compensation to say sorry. And what we do with our reservations is we guarantee that that happens in the event it breaks. So,
And one of the things, obviously, the sort of title of this of the interview being the clarity is, if you could just touch on a little bit about the buyer and the seller and
yeah.
why that's important for both parties, not just, in terms of the buyer, seller, and the agent, that'd be great.
Yeah, well, look, as you guys know, I've been an agency for a very long time, and I struggled, like all agents struggle, that when a buyer tells you their position, and the seller as well, not always the buyer, when they tell you their position, you're kind of limited with what you can actually guarantee to the seller to prove. Just because you can prove someone's got a deposit doesn't mean to say they're not going to back out, or if they say they're cash, and then you get a mortgage valuation 3 days later, which I've had. It's sometimes difficult to get that clarity. So for an agent, what we do is we provide that absolute certainty right at the very beginning that this person, the buyer, let's say in this example, if they say they're cash and they can move in 28 days, there will a written agreement we put in front of them that says prove that. And if they are lying, or shall we say looking through rose-tinted glasses to get the better of the agent and the better of the seller, then they could be in for a nasty surprise with compensation. So of course, we call it like a lie detector. Really, it gets the truth out right at the very beginning of the deal.
Yeah.
That proves that these people are who they say they are.
I remember some of the buyers are liars stuff, and you had to, pick the ABC and all
Yeah,
that sort of stuff. It's for me. I like the clarity angle for all parties, being, the buyer, the seller, that everybody creates a bond between everyone, and I like that because it creates that certainty of, if you say this is what it is, and you can't go back on it because you've created a bond together,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
I like that. It kind of leads me quite nicely onto a question from Graham. So Graham's the editorial director. He wants to ask you, government progress on streamlining transactions has been slow. So
Yeah.
what's the incentive for agents to go down the reservation agreement route when there's no certainty the whole industry will follow?
Well, I mean, if you are an estate agent right now, then why are you concerned what the industry follows you or not? Because actually, one of the
That's fair.
most important things as an estate agent is to have a story to give to sellers, an offering to give to a seller and a buyer that is different to your competition.
Mhm.
So actually, if you get the whole industry following, then we're going to be as we are now with floor plans. Everyone's doing it. Virtual tours. Everyone's doing it. All this sort of stuff. So by having something that now that you can have that, from my point of view, is the ultimate USP. Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller, if you use our agency, we can secure your buyer's commitment. Nobody else can. That's a very powerful thing to be able to offer to somebody. And we know from all of the agents that we have the pleasure of working with that those that are putting this front and center as their offering are winning really amazing market share stats. So, all great news, the government's dragging their heels. We're not. We're plowing forward and offering this USP to estate agents for free.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you in on that respect. It doesn't matter what happens if it's better for the moving process, whether that means the government make it everybody does this. Regardless of that, right now it improves the process, and it doesn't matter whether that happens or doesn't happen because it's good for you, Mr. Agent.
Well, look, I mean, Lee, I'll be really controversial about this. I don't think this is something that the industry needs to wait for the government to say,
Yep.
you are an estate agent, this is what you do. the industry is so full of brilliant people that it should fall to us as the industry to make this positive change.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we've had enough of rules and regulations over the last couple of years to last us a lifetime. Right?
Whatever do you mean?
I don't know. I mean, you must have a vaccine before you become an estate agent. That's probably next. So why should we wait? And look, we're not. Okay, we're a private enterprise. I've spent my entire life in the property industry. Like all our fellow professionals, I've had countless amounts of situations with sellers and buyers where they're very distraught and anxious and worried and nervous and not sure about the process. So if we can do something, even no matter how small it is, that just makes it a bit better for people, why aren't we all over it? And why have we got to wait for the government to tell us to?
That's a very fair point. And I think that pretty much is something we should end on. Positive change, and taking that upon us as an industry, I think is a really good takeaway. So, Bryan, thank you very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. And I'll catch up with you soon.
Cool. Thanks, bud.